Hi guys, this is Matti Ace. In this video, I'd like to continue with the drama around the TTK and the TTD, but more specifically about how DICE handled it and whether or not this was a genius move or just a purely insane move. To be fair, the answer is probably somewhere in between genius and insanity, but for the sake of argument, let's just keep it at these two extremes. Now, normally you would think that the time to kill and the time to death would go hand in hand. At least that's what you would think if you haven't played a Battlefield game. However, the drama is mainly based on the fact that that's not the case. Now, the reason why that is not so is mainly based on something called netcode. And the interesting thing here is how DICE handles this. Something that to me is rather fascinating actually. And what got the community so upset was that DICE decided to just change the time to kill by changing the damage of the weapons so that it requires one more bullet to kill a full health person with body shots. Now they did this despite the fact that after this was announced and until the change actually took place, there was a lot of people reacting very strongly against it. They changed it anyway, and set players in the community were very upset about it. About a week later, DICE decided that, okay, this was not such a great idea. They announced that they had been listening to the community, and they reverted the change back again, to the point where it was before the initial change was made. Now here is where it becomes really interesting. The overwhelming reactions from the community of DICE reverting the changes was very positive. Now that kind of means that the overall outcome of this drama was that DICE got a lot of credit for listening to the community, when in fact they didn't really fix or change anything. All they did was they made a very unpopular change and then reverted it back without any actual solution whatsoever. Now, what's also important to bring up here is that the reason why this change was made initially is that the sales of Battlefield 5 has been very poor compared to previous titles and compared to expectations, and the fact that the player base is now also much smaller than expected this shortly after launch. So now the question here is, was these changes a genius move by DICE where they earned a lot of credit from the community by doing absolutely nothing? Or is it more like a suicidal move by DICE where the community are starting to realize that DICE are not even trying to address core issues that we have had to deal with since at least Battlefield 3?
There's a tank destroyer truck behind you. He wants you to come in, he's honking.
Soldiers, we have lost objective Bertha.
Best fail ever. Alright, let's face it. We all make some bad decisions every once in a while. The question, however, is there any decisions DICE can make that can change some of the problems with the Battlefield series and mostly the dwindling player base in Battlefield 5? Well, first and foremost, it's important to understand that Battlefield 5 is a rather unique Battlefield game, and I think two of the most important changes compared to what Battlefield players generally are used to is the reduced spotting and the introduction of attrition. A lot of the changes that has made it a lot harder to go solo YOLO running and gunning, especially compared to Battlefield 1. The way Battlefield 5 plays out a little bit is probably more similar to what you normally expect in a hardcore mode of a previous title, even though that comparison actually leaves a lot to be said. Me, personally, I think that what they've done is introduce a lot of survival aspects into the game, but it's easier for me to relate to survival aspects than hardcore mode, since I've played a lot of survival games the last couple of years, which basically is as hardcore as it gets if you look at the difference between core and hardcore mode in the Battlefield franchise. And I think as it is, DICE are really struggling with figuring out why this game is relatively unpopular. Now, the thing is that when you make a lot of changes to the next game in a sequel, such as Battlefield 5 is, compared to previous games, the problem is analyzing what changes has the biggest effects. The more changes you have, the harder it is to find a problem if there is a problem. And apparently, Battlefield 5 has a problem with a shrinking player base and bad sales. So now on a more personal level, and hopefully this will help some of you guys out if you're feeling very, very frustrated trying to play this game, I have found that teamwork is more essential in Battlefield 5 than I think basically every other first-person shooter I have ever played. And keep in mind, I have always highly valued good team play. I think that is really, really fun, and having a good functioning team or squad always makes a Battlefield game or a similar game much more enjoyable for a player such as myself. So if you've been trying to go by this game playing it solo, especially if that is how you used to play Battlefield games, if you can, give it a try to find regular teammates to play with, unless that hinders you from playing the way you want to play a game. I am sure that that's going to make it much more fun to play Battlefield 5. And basically what you want to do is that you want to have a unit composition that counters attrition. Basically, that's my tip. So another thing that I would like to mention, and I'll probably have to elaborate on this later on in another video, is that I'm starting to feel that DICE are more and more, slowly at least, starting to abandon one of its core game modes, which is Conquest, the game mode that I have appreciated the most. Now, saying abandoning is of course the wrong word, because you have just as much conquest in this game as in any other game, or well, basically anyway. But what I feel like is that basically all the balance decisions or any decisions that affects the game are based on how the game plays out, especially in operations, and I would say also especially on console. Now for me that's a bit of a problem, and I feel this as a problem since I play PC and I normally would prefer to play Conquest. I'm hoping, of course, that this is just in my mind and I'm imagining this, but it has been a nagging feeling that I just haven't been able to shake, even during the time when I only played Battlefield 1. Now, what also is rather interesting is that right after this drama, DICE decided to give us 2 new weapons. Now, the Ribeirolles is one of them. You've seen me use it throughout the entire video, basically. And then we have this one, the M1897 shotgun. Now, it's important to understand that whenever a new weapon is introduced to the game, a lot of the YouTubers and streamers will be focusing on that, which might be what DICE wants. Maybe DICE just want people to focus on something else than the drama around TTK. And 2 new weapons will of course give content creators such as myself something else to talk about. Now, of course, I'm quite curious about what you guys think about this whole TTK drama now that it's reverted, it's basically over, and I'd like to know, do you guys think that DICE came out ahead of this? Was this something that they profited from or gained from? Will they come out of this as the gaming developers that listens to the core community and really pays attention to what their player base wants? Or will it look more like DICE is the kind of game developer that has the same problem in game after game after game without actually fixing it? Or when they do fix it, it's normally just too little too late. Please share your thoughts in the comment section below about Battlefield 5, especially in comparison to previous titles in the franchise. My name is Matti Ace, and I want to thank you all for watching. That's all I had.
No.
Oh my god, they are all in A.
Yep.
Oh, B. B, I mean B.
Yeah. Just spawn on me.
Nope.
Sprengladung scharf. Deckung.
Behind to the bottom floor.
Erste Hilfe sei Dank.
Oh yeah, proning with the... They're up on the house on the other side of the wall there. Oh, nice. Got 2 of them.
Yeah.
Nice revive there.
Ich habe ein Geschenk für Sie.
Okay, we were able to push.
Sprengladungen sind bereit.
Oh, what? Healing. Oh, nice, 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 nice.
Rigging explosive.
How am I alive?